Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. Liftoff.
What is up, guys? Hunter Klein here, bringing you this week's episode of Interplanetary Monkeys, episode number 106, I believe. Could be wrong. Bottom line is, it's a lot. It is a lot. Things are interesting. Things are interesting, like always. I'm thankful that I can say that. First off, I realized today that for the majority of these episodes, I wear almost the exact same clothes. And I think that it is the root of me as a person in my life right now, is that I'm just so habitual. I operate best on a consistent schedule. Every single morning I wake up, the first thing I do is take a sip of coffee before I can do much. Whether or not it's actually improving me, it's just that mental consistency. I get into grooves very quickly. It can be both detrimental and it can be both extremely beneficial. I am a man of habit. I like being able to know exactly what's going to happen, exactly what my schedule's going to be. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So I just put on the same clothes every day, pretty much. I wear the same clothes every day of the week, generally, like the same outfits on the same days of the week, which is very strange. And yeah, I don't know. I don't even really care, but it's an interesting phenomena that I think shines light on a interesting part of my brain. Business is going well, guys. Some exciting news. Things have started. The journey has began. Our survival efforts on the island with the burned boats, they're in full force. They're in full force. But before we get into the episode today, I want to put a little reminder out there about how thankful we should be for where we live. And by this, I mean the United States. Okay. One of the first articles I saw this week tuning into the news, the world news, is that 164 people died in Kazakhstan during violent protests. All right. If one person dies here during violent protests, we freak out. The entire nation goes bonkers, as they should. Laws are changed. People riot. People are fired, as they should. We are in a very controlled, very peaceful environment compared to some places of the world. And while I think it's important that we continually push forward and still progress, regardless, not comparing other nations to ourselves, keep it in mind. Okay, you look at some of these Twitter profiles, some of these Twitter activists, these online activists. You look at some of their articles about the United States and assume that the nation is just burning. And it's not. We've got it extremely well, guys. We are extremely fortunate. No matter what kind of family you were born into, no matter what kind of random number generation you got on your human life spawn, the fact that you are in the United States, if you are in the United States, is a very lucky draw. A very lucky card to pull off that deck. So be thankful, guys. The fact that some of these, I'm not going to exactly talk about the nature of these protests because I have in no way, shape, or form have the knowledge to actually talk about these things accurately. And these things tend to get very complex. These foreign conflicts and the root of them and the history behind them, it just goes deep. Okay, it goes deep, and I'm in no way, shape, or form equipped to talk about that. But this is one of many stories about other nations across the country or the world that are having issues, that are just seeing, reasonable sizes of people getting killed by government, violent militant groups, things of this nature. And we live in a very controlled environment, guys. Let's just admit that. Again, I think it's reasonable for us to critique our nation and for people to put pressure on certain systems and certain beliefs and certain groups of people, because it makes us, go forward. We have this thing where we do swing right to left very violently on certain stances or certain topics. We tend to go very extreme to start on certain stances, on certain issues that are brought to light. But eventually we will balance out through critique and pressure from the citizens. And that's what democracy is all about, baby. Okay? That's what democracy is all about. The fact that I can sit here on a Sunday evening and not have to worry about my house getting hit by a rogue bombshell is, it's a blessing. Okay? I know that sounds crazy. It's a blessing. While we're on the topic, you know what guy I don't like? You know what guy I don't like? The guy who at parties or at hangouts always brings up the fact, always wants to enlighten people on how rare the chance of life is. He always wants to lecture. He always asks that question, what are the chances we're here? How crazy is that? What are the chances we're here on Earth, that you were born? Here's the deal. I, more than anybody, as much as anybody, I don't want to say more than anybody, as much as anybody, appreciate the uniqueness and the chances of life itself. Okay, yes, we're in a very large universe. We are very fortunate that Earth was able to find a stable rotation around a relatively stable sun and grow organic life without being completely decimated by giant meteors flying through a black empty space we call the universe. Okay, we're very lucky. But here's the deal. Here's the answer to this question that's not so beautiful. What are the chances that we are alive right now, that humans exist? 100%. What are the chances we're here right now? 100%, because it happened. Okay. Again, it's good to be grateful. It's good to be grateful, but the chances are, when someone throws this fact out, it's very shallow. I appreciate the intent behind these type of discussions, because essentially it's to be grateful for life. Right? That's what this guy is trying to push forward. Usually some kind of motivational guy that has created an LLC at 21, but his LLC does absolutely nothing, and he just pretty much did it for entrepreneur in his Instagram title. Yeah. Okay. Regardless of the man's character, let's not question character, but the message is beautiful. Be thankful for life. But the actual answer to this question is 100%, because it happened. Not only did it happen, but based on statistics, it probably happened somewhere else as well. Okay. Again, I don't want to shit on the message here. Okay. And I don't think the takeaway from this is, this isn't that special. It is special. The idea that humans are special is great. Aren't special, maybe, is great. You, on the other hand, the percentage chance that you yourself spawned in and now you get to experience all this, well, that's probably fairly unique, right? Again, now we're getting deep, and we could just go down this rabbit hole of I'm not even going to start. But they always throw out these numbers. 1 in a trillion. Dude, the chances of us being here are 1 in a trillion. You know how many stars are out there? It's like, okay, bro. Again, generally these are younger individuals that are just getting into how big the universe is, and are just absolutely enamored by the size of the universe and these statistics, and really want to, inspire people. Generally more motivated individuals. But, again, the chances are 100%. It happened. In hindsight, right? In hindsight. I'm not really sure how we got on that tangent, and I'm not really sure why we thought about that, but I'm glad it was brought up. Interesting note. As you guys know, I'm a Google user. I think the Google Pixel phone is one of the greatest phones ever. The fingerprint scanner on the back of the phone it just goes so well with my persona. Not to mention, a majority of the platforms I use on my PC are Google, so the connection between the work I do on my desktop and the work I can access on my phone is incredible. Okay, it's just incredible. The UI for Google Apps works fantastic on Google phones, as you can imagine. So we have a good time. Here's the only and biggest issue with owning a Google Pixel phone, that being iPhone users bitching about my green messages. It is so annoying. Now, I have a few instances where there are iPhone-specific applications that I am unable to access, such as group chats, which I experienced at a recent job. But other than that, the only real issue is iPhone users over-exaggerating how annoying white or green messages are. And I ran into an interesting article. Maybe, and here's the thought, here's the takeaway, maybe iPhone users aren't exaggerating how terrible the green message experience is compared to their blue messages. Now, how strategic do you think iPhone is? Because it would be extremely beneficial if they made the experience for iPhone users messaging Google users as shitty as possible. Because all of a sudden, you have this environment, which we live in right now, where every Google user is pressured by friends and family to buy an iPhone. All right, interesting thought. Well, let's take it a step further. The Google VP, Senior Vice President, claims that iPhone green message systems for conversations between iPhone and Google are designed to lure kids over to using iPhone. What a marketing scheme if it's true, guys. I believe there is something to this. This works. This works. I am a grown adult, okay? And I'm relatively independent. I think generally I'm not easily influenced by, the general population, by just an average human. I'm pretty stubborn with my thoughts, and I put a lot of effort into my thoughts, and I'm that kind of guy. So when people will complain about iPhones, I don't give a shit at all. And besides that, I rarely even text people. All right, so I don't run into this. But if you are a kid in a friend group and you're the only one with a Google phone, and every time you text, every time you send a message, maybe in a group chat, you're literally made fun of because of your phone and your messages, there is this weird, stigma that Google or Droid platform users in general are just less financially equipped, are poor. You're more susceptible to opinions of others. They're more influential on your mindset, and you're absolutely going to want to switch to iPhone. Now, if the VP of Google is saying this, there's reason to, further explore this idea. But here's the deal. These developers, when you talk about app development, I don't even have an app to develop yet. And this is a pretty straightforward idea. Yeah, we make the messaging experience for our users with non-iPhone users super shitty, so they pressure their phones to switching, or they pressure their friends to switching. It's almost a no-brainer. So I don't even think this is a controversial idea. I think there is no doubt in my mind that iPhone is using strategies like this, because if they're not, they're fucking up. To be honest with you, Google does the same thing. They have a new system where if you message someone else with like a Google Pixel, I believe, I only experienced it with one other user, but you get like a very clear indication that your messages are encrypted, that no one can access through a locked system. It shows you a lock. No one can access. These are, you cannot get through. So it's a very interesting thing. And it's very interesting for me, especially because now I am in the mobile application business. I am on the user analysis side, where you guys are just numbers. And we're trying to, figure out exactly how to get you to spend more time on each screen. I'm going to talk about this more later. It's very interesting being on the other side of things. But here's the deal. Okay, what is the deal? Here's the deal. It doesn't matter what phone you use, guys. And if it does matter, you're spending too much time on your phones. Let's be completely honest. Get some goals, get some hobbies, and get some passions. And let's not stress too much of it. I mean, it's interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. As far as I want to talk about personal stuff, guys. I've had some incredible things happen this week, and we're going to streamline to it. News is boring as shit, to be honest. I don't know if it's my algorithms or what's going on. Omicron is going crazy. My grocery store is empty in Austin, but a majority of people still aren't wearing masks. It's a very interesting phenomena. I'm not sure how things are going in your part of the world, but here, again, we've hit like a very high rate, and things are just still very relaxed. So stay healthy, take care of yourself, get good sleep, and be prepared for illness, okay? I would not suggest any 48-hour binges of whatever the fuck you do. I don't think it's exactly the healthy time. Okay, first off, I want to get the sad news out of the way. For the first time in my life, I actually lost a member of my family. Now, it wasn't a very hard experience. It wasn't very difficult for me to digest or go through. And I think it's a very interesting scenario why. So my grandpa passed away from cancer, I guess he's very old. Okay, first off, he's very old. But he passed away from cancer. And because of financial issues, and obviously I'm like barely floating right now trying to get this business started, I was unable to go visit him before he passed. I had gone home, missed out on a couple weeks of income, really put myself in a very poor financial situation, and was unable to leave again. Here's the interesting part about losing my grandpa. First off, I think I'm relatively insensitive compared to the average human when it comes to death. Okay, I don't know why. Maybe it's my time in space or space research and all this weird deep shit with that. Maybe it's how I was raised. I think it's a combination of both of these. But for whatever reason, it never really hit me hard. Obviously, I mourned the death and thought about him and what he meant to me and the messages he gave me. Not that I don't care. But it never hit me on an emotional standpoint. I was never distraught. I was never destroyed. I was never distracted. Those were unintentionally all D words, and I think they all fit very well in this conversation. It was an interesting experience. And I have one thing that I keep falling back on and why it was so easy for me, and it was because my grandpa's attitude during the later years of his life. This constant idea, when I had conversations with him, he would always bring up, I'm on borrowed time right now. I could go at any time here. I've had a good life. And he would celebrate, what my accomplishments and tell me to keep going and say that he loves to see me work hard. And he would always allude at things were going downhill and that it could be any day from now. He would always say that. And he would be so open and okay with the idea of passing and leaving that it didn't make it a sadness. Okay, it almost felt like he was ready to go if the time came. He was open to it. I'm playing on borrowed time. My life's been great, and it could happen, and just keep going. That's essentially what our conversations would go like. And I think it was such an interesting phenomenon. It was so interesting. I lost it January 6th. What day it is? About 3 days ago, he passed away. And yeah, it's just one of those things. One of those things. Life is, this is not even the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how ruthless life can be, right? People can get taken from you early. Your life can get taken from you early. Nothing's guaranteed, and it really is a red tooth and claw world out there. Things aren't fair, friends. From birth to death, from a rich birth of a wealthy family with no monetary issues to an early death of you getting hit by a random car that swerved off the road. Things can get ugly quick. Okay, so enjoy the good times. As bad as things seem sometimes, as exaggerated as they are, they can always get worse. Okay, an interesting, relatively non-emotional experience for me when I lost one of my first, close, actually loved family members. And I think the attitude of the person that was actually passing really helped out a lot with how that processed in my brain. Okay. So, big thing. Business has started. Funds have been received. Initial investment received. The project has started. I am talking with a UI design team. They are hired. They're on the clock. We are creating exactly what my digital sports performance app will look like and how it will operate. It is invigorating. Talking with UI designer, CEO of the company, sitting in rooms, talking about every detail, the user psychology. What are other apps doing with similar platforms? Why are those apps different? Why should we not copy that app here? And why should we copy them here? What are the user psychology, what's the user psychology of our market size, our target market compared to their target market? It is interesting as hell, guys. And again, this first size of money was amazingly impactful for me because it allowed me to turn my idea from a charity case to a legitimate business platform that has people testing it and interested users. And the sky is the limit now. The value for this initial investment was $10,000, and with that $10,000, I truly believe I can turn it into hundreds of thousands of dollars. The idea itself, how much it's worth. And that is an exciting time. Again, we have found ourselves on a very clear upward slope. Okay, a very clear upward slope. We know exactly where we need to walk. We don't know how long it's going to take, but we're going to start walking. Okay, and I had an interesting thing happen I want to share with you guys because I think it's a very valuable lesson. Okay. As you guys know, I've risked almost everything to make this project happen, and I will continue to risk everything until this works or fails. Okay, I will see if this project works or fails at any cost. Because things have been so high risk and I've done so much crazy, egregious shit, I figured why not do extra? What is the absolute most extra thing we can do to give this project a positive chance of succeeding? Well, connections. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know, especially in the industry of business, especially in the sports performance industry or in an industry, the app development industry, the business making process where you need money. If you know the right person, your project's made. If you know the right person, your project's out in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So I decided I need to reach out to some powerhouses of my industry. And here's the real interesting thing here, guys. The value of thinking in percentages, and I've been talking about this since Conversations on Curiosity for almost 4 years now. Even when I was a young lad. This is how I found great success in my younger years of just connections and academia. The value of thinking about yourself and what you're doing, the activities you're doing, the lengths you're going to make your goals succeed. The perspective of thinking as your actions in percentages. That is, what percentage of people do this? What percentage of people do this is so incredible. Okay, my example for this project. I needed to reach out to powerhouses in my industry to say, hey, I have this crazy app idea. I need you to look at it. Just look at it. All I ask these guys is 15 minutes of their time because I believe without a doubt that if I get 15 minutes of their time, they'll stay for an hour because they'll want to talk about the project. I'm passionate as hell about this. I articulate my words well. It's something that you will be interested in, especially if you're passionate about sports performance. So I sent letters to Eric Cressy, sports performance coach of the New York Yankees, or he's on their board of directors, sports performance directors. I sent a letter to Gray Cook, who worked with Venus and Serena Williams, worked with Peyton Manning, created the functional movement systems, great stuff. I sent a letter to Mark Cuban. It's a little bit of a reach. He has money and he's interested in sports. And I sent a letter to Greg Rose, the sports performance guy at Titleist Sports Performance. Works with rotational athletes, mainly golf athletes. So I sent letters to these guys. But here's the deal. How many phone calls do you think these guys get a day? Very high off, very successful guys in their field. Probably quite a bit. How many emails do you think these guys get a day? Probably quite a bit. What are my percentage chances of contacting them through those avenues, those platforms? Not that high. But how many written letters do you think these guys get? Probably not many. How many letters do you think they get where the address to and from is written, or when they open that envelope, that the actual letter is written on a couple pages? Not very often. So I handwrote letters to all these guys, and it fucking worked on one. Not to mention, we'll see if it works on others. Gray Cook, a PT and strength and conditioning coach who worked with Serena and Venus Williams in their early days of athletics, who worked with Peyton Manning when he was transitioning between the Colts to the Broncos, getting some work done on his neck and his back. Gray Cook called me. He called me. Not only did he call me, keep in mind, I asked this guy for 15 minutes of his time. Okay? We talked for an hour and a half, guys, on a Friday evening. And I had to end the phone call because I had to get onto the floor to coach. I was talking to this guy while I was doing leg extensions on a leg extension machine during my workout because I was like, shit, I can't end this phone call. This is a crazy opportunity. I had to end the phone call anyway. He still wanted to talk. I felt like I was being ungrateful because I wasn't sapping every second I could out of this guy. But I had to get to work. I don't know what the hell happened. It was an incredible experience. Now, I still haven't digested exactly what that phone call meant, right? There was a lot. It was an hour and a half talking to a powerhouse in the industry. What does that mean for the project? Obviously, he was interested. He believed in the idea, which is awesome. But I don't really need that. What I need is help on the functionality. And one of the big things I realized during that call, and even right now, thinking about it even more, is to be quite honest with you guys, there's not a lot I think I need to make this project succeed. Obviously, some tips here on the systems I'm using and some testing. And I did get some feedback, some ideas that I think will help us out during the testing process of the application. But bottom line is, after the call, I was just like, that was great. He believes in the project. I didn't really need any reinforcement. I know the project is promising. He gave me some access to content, but at the very bottom line is, I don't need any of these people to message me back to make this a success. And that's what I thought when I sent those letters. So it was such an interesting thing. Again, the idea is, how many written letters do you think this guy got? How impressive do you think that was? I can guarantee you that it was impressive because it was the first thing he mentioned when he called me. And it's about standing out. I did this when I was in undergrad. I was in Edinburgh for a conference. I looked up the address of astrobiologists in Edinburgh. A guy by the name of Charles. I can't remember his last name. Maybe I have his book over here. His last name was Charles. And no, I'm not seeing the book. His last name was Charles. And I believe it was like a Saturday. And I said, fuck it. I'm going to go to the University of Edinburgh, go to this guy's office because he does work with NASA. And I don't want to work for NASA. So let's talk to this guy. I am across the country at the University of Edinburgh, which is a terribly designed campus, by the way. Never talked to this guy before. Never emailed him. I have a resume in my hand, and I show up to a random fucking office, and guess what, guys? He was in his office 5 minutes away from leaving, and I sat down on that desk, and I said, hey, dude, I just traveled all the way across the world, literally, flew on a plane. I've never talked to you before, but I'm here. I've read your work. I see that you work for NASA, and this is my dream. Can you imagine how fucking crazy that was for this guy? Imagine you're sitting in your office in Dallas, Texas, and some dude from Europe shows up randomly off the clock and it has an accent. I had an accent to this guy. And it's like, hey, I just got here. What can I work for you, or do you have any connections? Guys, that ultimately led me to meeting different people that worked for NASA, to get connections to go to ASU was one of my initial interests. And it's ultimately why I worked on the Europa Clipper NASA mission with Everett Schock at ASU. Now, nothing happened with that. We've talked about it before, the story. I believe there's a podcast episode talking about all this. You know, it wasn't the job for me. It didn't turn out to be what I wanted, but that was a crazy opportunity. And it came from percentages. How many kids show up at in this office like that? Probably a decent amount, right? Yes, students. How many of those guys are from the United States? How many of those guys, you know, it's such an interesting idea, guys. It's not hard. The bottom line is here, it's not hard to set yourself apart from the pack in almost any endeavor, whether it's calling a company after you send in your resume, or sending written letters to various people after you hunt them down on the internet. It's not hard to go above and beyond to set yourself apart. Now, is it possible that you're still not going to get the opportunity or get the time of day from individuals if you set yourself apart? Yes, it's absolutely possible. It could be a waste of time. But that is the definition of doing your best. All right? Have I done my best on this project? If Klein Strength digital sports performance coach fails, did I do my best? I got damn fucking close. Okay? I got damn close. And that's the real takeaway here, guys. Okay, so it's nuts. I talked with a very well-respected guy in the industry who's very well connected, who believed in everything I said, pretty much talked to me or told me that I reminded him of himself when he was young, and that if I'm thinking the way I am at 24 years old, I have a bright future ahead of me. I don't know if I believe that quite yet. I need to see it to believe it, and you bet your ass I'm going to try to see it. But guys, things are interesting right now. God damn it, I hope this works. God damn it, I hope this works, guys. All right. Percentages. We're going to name the IP episode that today. And yeah, that phone call was very impactful. Again, I think it would have been more impactful if I was more on an island or I didn't have confidence in the project, but I do. And I realized that after. I sat there like almost dumbfounded. Like, why am I not grasping the value of this talk? Like, the reason I'm not grasping it is because the majority of the value was confidence. And I already have that with it. Okay? I already have that with it. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you got something valuable out of today's episode. Losing loved ones in an interesting juxtaposition with incredible opportunity and strides in the business front. Life's an interesting thing, guys. I think the biggest thing keeping me moving forward, that keeps me distracted and keeps me happy and excited to wake up every day is the potential to change my life. The idea that I'm doing something incredibly risky. And if I fail, I lose everything. There's a lot at stake, you know? And I think high stakes, high rewards, that's a very, very invigorating lifestyle. Very invigorating lifestyle. All right, so much love to everyone that's here. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Again, I hope you guys can get something out of these episodes, whether it's inspiration, help, entertainment, whatever that might be. I know we haven't been too on the humor side of things recently. We've kind of gotten away from that, but my life is not very humorous these days. It's very serious. It's interesting. Again, I can't complain. I'm very happy right now. But that's just, the podcast reflects my attitude in my life and the way things are going in my brain. And that ain't going to change anytime soon, family, all right? So if you're on a high, if life's feeling damn good right now, enjoy it. Again, this bitch ain't fair. Bad things can happen. And just enjoy it. Don't take it for granted. If you're on a low, battle through. Well, things will come around. Peaks and valleys. It's unavoidable. Peaks and valleys. Alrighty? Alrighty, guys. That's it for this week's episode of Interplanetary Monkeys. This is Hunter Klein, and I'll hear from you next week. Peace, peace.